Former First Lady Michelle Obama says she cried for 30 minutes after she left the White House for the last time, calling it, quote, uncontrollable sobbing in her new podcast, The Light Podcast.
After the inauguration, and we know whose inauguration we were at, that day was so emotional on so many different reasons. We were leaving the home we had been in for 8 years, the only home our kids really knew. They remembered Chicago, but they had spent more time in the White House than anywhere. So we were saying goodbye to the staff and all the people who helped to raise them. There were tears. There was that emotion. But then to sit on that stage and watch the opposite of what we represented on display. There was no diversity. There was no color on that stage. There was no reflection of the broader sense of America. And many people took pictures of me and they like, you weren't in a good mood. No, I was not.
We're back now with our panel. Natasha, how did you hear that?
I think that I understand.
Yeah.
You know, this first lady, she remains one of the most popular first ladies, so let's get that out there, right? And she managed to do that with such grace and dignity, right? So many attacks on her husband, watching this transfer of power to a man who called for her husband's birth certificate. Think of the insults that she endured, and yet again, she made the White House a place that was for all Americans. She opened the door. She said this was the people's house. So I imagine from many levels, not just politically, but as a mother, as she said, this was an incredible transition for her. And so I understand the tears. I think a lot of people were at home crying with her.
Margaret?
Yeah, I have a lot of empathy for her and a lot of sympathy for her. By the way, like she sat on that stage, kept a straight face. Guess who didn't? George W. Bush, the former president. I mean, remember when he heard the American carnage line, he said that was famously was reported to have said, well, that was some weird ass.
Yeah.
So, like you have a lot of sympathy for anyone in that position, but it's also eminently a very personal transition. I mean, she raised her children there. She lived there. She had deep relationships and meaningful relationships and moments that were there, and you can't take that sort of personal element away from it either. So I have a lot of sympathy for it.
Jay, how did you sneak in here? I didn't even introduce you. Jay Michaelson, how are you?
In through the side door.
What did you do with Mondaire? Where is Mondaire, the former congressman? Welcome.
Thank you.
How do you hear what the First Lady said there in the podcast?
You know, I just was really struck. There's almost this national conversation about what strength looks like right now. And for me, you know, for her to sort of show this vulnerability for me was such a sign of strength and of real power. Sure. You know, there are a lot of folks who would say, oh, well, that's weakness. You know, I can imagine the sort of headlines, you know, oh, it's a great way to own the libs, right? Oh, you know, Michelle Obama was crying for a half an hour. But I felt that was so beautiful. First, that she had that experience, and then that she felt able to share that. Felt like a really profound, strong moment.
And that's very interesting because it took her a while to share that. So it's been a few years. She's written 2 books. Now she has this podcast. She's sharing it. But there was a time in 2017 when she went on some late night show. I don't know if it was Jimmy Kimmel or Jimmy Fallon, but she joked about it. What was I thinking that day? I said, bye, Felicia. Like she just gave a quip. Right. And now this seems like the more possibly authentic
Well, it's been
response.
a few years, right? And, you know, I think that some of that might be just coming for the wisdom that comes from age, but some of it is that she doesn't have to show that certain face anymore, right? She's not just the recently ex-First Lady. Time has passed, and I feel like there's a space for her to be even more herself.